Welcome to part 3 of our explanation report. Okay, so the first 2 days you learned about the explanation report and you practiced brainstorming and writing an introduction. Now today what you're doing is you're following the steps to write a process in paragraphs. Okay, now there's a big key when writing explanation reports because there's some language that should be in there. Okay, so the 3 forms of language that should be in there, depending on what you're doing. Okay, adverbs, verbs, and conjunctions. Okay, now adverbs, just to quickly refresh, they describe a verb. Okay, so they describe how a verb goes. A verb, that's an action word, so it's something that you can do. Conjunction, joining word. Okay, so it joins 2 words, 2 sentences together, or joins 2 ideas together, or it allows you to keep moving on with a thought. All right. Now some examples. Now there are plenty of different examples, and we've sort of done this before, but just to quickly refresh. So for an adverb, we have like quickly, slowly, quietly. Okay, so it's just basically how you did something. A verb, things like push, pull, hit, move. Okay, bang. Any type of thing that you can actually do. And there's some conjunctions, some joining words. So it'll be things like then, after, now, before, because, first, if, so, also. All right? Any one of those conjunctions could be used in or any form of writing, but definitely important in an explanation report. And the main important thing to remember is that in an explanation report there is a cause and effect. Now we have done a little bit of work on it, not a great deal, but remember, cause and effect. Because something happens, then there's an effect. Okay? So because this happens, then something happens. Alright? So generally, in an explanation report, there are cause and effects. Right? Sometimes there might not be, but if you show me an explanation report that has no cause and effect, I'll give you some money. Okay? Because that is why they're called explanation reports. Because something happened, you're explaining how it happened. All right. So World War I, because somebody decided to start shooting down people, then all the other countries decided to start bombing them. All right. That's the cause and effect. The flood, because it rained so much, well then it flooded. All right. So all the explanation reports will have a. If you're not using because, you're probably not writing a good explanation report. All right. So because something happened, then an effect happens from it. All right. So that's the language part of the explanation text that you need to sort of really focus on. All right. So just to quickly recap: adverbs, verbs, conjunctions, and cause and effect. All right. Now, when we're writing our main paragraphs, our body, the important thing is, if you're explaining how something works, you need to make sure that it's in order. So if you're explaining how a TV works, you wouldn't start with when you press the remote. Okay? You would start with other things there, like when the power goes to it, then this happens. Once this happens, then you press the remote, then this happens, followed by this. It should all be in order. Okay, so that is a hard. So if you're doing a flood, you don't put down to start with that the river broke its banks and because of too much water it floods. Well, you start off with because it rained heavy for 3 days, then the banks started to grow and the river started to get up. Then after a few more days, then the banks broke. Okay, so it all has to be in order. But as I said, that depends on what type of explanation report you're writing. All right, if you're just explaining why something happened, generally it will be as well. So why did World War I start? You'd be putting in order of why it started. Okay, now the one that I've chosen is why there are traffic lights. Okay, there's no real sequential order in it. Because I'm just explaining to you why there are traffic lights in there. So it doesn't matter what order I put it in, but it's still explaining why there are traffic lights in the world. So you've got to be really careful on what type of topic you're doing. Most of the topics will be in order, but there will be some topics that you will have that don't really have to be in order. But the rest really sort of do. But as I said, mine doesn't really have to follow a proper order. It's just explaining why the things are there and the traffic lights are there. Okay. So traffic lights are the colours that they are because they are recognised as the easiest to see colours. Red is the easiest and means danger, so it is the one that represents stop. So that is why the colours are on the traffic lights. Okay? The use of traffic lights on busy roads allows high volume of traffic to flow through the intersections. There are cycles for some because it gives everyone the same amount of time. If there were no traffic lights, cars would crash and there would be massive delays. So once again, that explains why it's important for motorists to have traffic lights. And then the last one, a traffic light also allows a pedestrian to walk across the road safely. If there were no traffic lights, people would not be able to cross safely. All right, once again, that explains why there are traffic lights in the world. Okay. Now, as you notice, I've underlined some words. So we've got because, easiest, so, represents, stop, allows, high, and so on. Because I've identified that there are those words there. Okay, so they're either adverbs, verbs, conjunctions, or something to do with cause and effect. All right, so that's why I've underlined and highlighted the fact that it is in each paragraph. Okay, so that will be your task. Now, for the first couple of days, we're just going to practice this, and then we're going to fully finish it. Because into the next week, then I'll make another video in terms of how to fully finish it and all that, because it needs sort of diagrams and that, but I'm not getting into that this week. So all we're practicing this week is you've already done the introductions. Now we're practicing our body of paragraphs. Okay, so for most of them, it will be a sequence, so it's got to be in order. Whereas some, like mine, it doesn't matter. You're just explaining why there are traffic lights in the world. Okay, so it depends on what topic you choose to do. But your task for today is, on one of your introductions that you created, I want you to write a paragraph, body of paragraph. So, as I said, people will go, "Oh, how many paragraphs do I need to do, Mr. P?" Well, it depends on what you chose. Okay, for some things you may have 10 paragraphs. For other things, you may only have 3 or 4. Okay, so it just depends on what your topic is. But you've just got to fully explain the process of how or why things have happened. All right. So that's going to be our task for 2 days, because you've created 2 introductions. So you're going to write 2 paragraphs. Okay, and that will be our week's writing, because then next week we're going to put it all together and then create a PowerPoint, because we need some diagrams and we need some pictures, which I'll explain next week anyway. But for this week, hopefully by the end of this week, you have created 2 introductions and 2 paragraphs. So that way there you have a good understanding of what it looks like and what it takes to create an explanation text. And then next week, we'll look at sort of publishing. All right, so that's what we're looking at this week in writing. So good luck. Remember, if there's something that you don't quite understand, come back, look at the video again and pause. So good luck with our writing this week.